Hey, welcome back to the channel. We are continuing our iPhone 13 mini review, doing some more detailed comparisons with the low light performance. It's about 7:30 right now, so sun has already set. We're about to get some nice low light and nighttime photos and videos on the two cameras. And the other thing that I'm going to be doing in this video specifically is looking at the battery performance. So they're both at 100%, they both been fully charged, and they're both at about 50% brightness right now. One of the biggest questions I had from the last video with my initial review and first looks at the iPhone 13 mini was, well, how much better is the new 13 mini compared to the 12 mini? So we'll do a mix of their main cameras as well as their wide angle cameras, and then we'll switch to some video comparisons too. So in this first test here, we have a really nice sky, and I'm gonna set my metering for the city in the background there. I'm just gonna snap away. And then we're going to do a wide angle shot here. I'm anticipating the wide angle camera to be one of the biggest areas that we see improvement on. I also want to mention that in this video specifically, I'm not going to be looking at any of the picture profiles that the 13 mini has also introduced that kind of bake in the color profile into your photos, which I don't really think is a good idea. If you're looking to have the most flexibility with your photos, you typically want the flattest picture profile possible, so you don't really want to bake any of those into your pictures. Honestly, it would be nice if these could actually shoot raw natively with their apps. That's the other thing I want to note as well. I'm only shooting with the native camera apps that come pre-installed. In these next photos here, I am intentionally facing it down towards the bushes here, which to my eye are pretty dark and have a lot of shadows. Both are automatically doing a 3-second shutter. And then we'll switch to a wide, and again, it's for 3 seconds. Now, just looking at the two side by side on their screen, again, they're both at about 50% brightness. The representation, it just looks like the iPhone 12 mini is a little bit brighter just looking at the screen themselves. I'm gonna get a bit of this tree in the foreground here, and I'm actually going to set my focus point and exposure on the tree. So that's interesting. So on the 12 mini, it's determining that it should expose for 3 seconds, whereas on the 13 mini, it's determined that it only needs 2 seconds. The 12 mini is jumping back and forth now that it's on 2 seconds here. So you can definitely tell switching between the wide and the standard camera. Standard camera is obviously it being a larger sensor, a lot brighter and letting in a lot more light. In this next one, and I'm just gonna get some close-up shots. These leaves both are set to 1 second, and the focus point is on the grape-looking leaves. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and continue the test further down towards the water where we have those nice boats and lights. One of the things that I'm noticing, again, it's more likely that the 12 mini is setting its exposure for 3 seconds versus the 13 mini more frequently is just between 2 and 1 seconds. So that also might help suggest that it's got better low light capabilities than the 12 mini if you're just looking at it strictly from that standard. Let's do a really tricky shot here before we go to those boats. We have these bushes here. Set my exposure point on the sign that says keep off the rocks. The 13 mini notices that there is text in that sign, has a box highlighted around it, asking me if I want to scan that text. Yeah, it's much cleaner and sharper on the 13 mini. Again, I can barely see that sign, so that's pretty impressive there. For reference, while she's adjusting the camera, I can hardly see where she is. We're gonna do 3-second exposure over there. I mean, I gotta say, that's super impressive. When I zoom onto the sign that says now hiring lifeguards, I can't even read the text on the 12 mini. On the 13 mini, it's far cleaner. Again, I can't see any of these details, so that is extremely impressive. We're gonna continue the test down towards the boat. There's definitely also a color difference where the photos on the 13 mini perhaps are looking more saturated and warmer. Nothing you can't fix in post, and in terms of just visual appeal without zooming in, the 12 mini looked better. The 13 mini, again, is still a good amount sharper and is handling the different colors and the brightnesses a lot better. You can set a max of 10-second exposure time for all of them. All right, they're both at 8 seconds now. So as she repositions, let me tell you about this photo that I'm looking at right now. Let's zoom into the chain fence. Not as much of a difference between the two. Might be ever so slightly a little bit sharper on the 13 mini. So before we continue here with some final shots and then actually trying out some video, we've been shooting for about 40 minutes. It's about 7:40 right now, so we've been shooting about 40 minutes. And the iPhone 13 mini is at 93%, and the iPhone 12 mini is at 92%. We've shot the same amount of photos on both, same amount of screen on time, but it's within the margin of error right now. these aren't gonna be the prettiest photos, but they are some low light examples. As we take photos of signs, I like doing that because it allows us to see how much sharper they are between the two. The colors look a lot better on the 13 mini. It's definitely a lot sharper on the text as well. I see a lot more detail in it. I see a lot more of the scuff marks too. And again, the colors look a lot more rich, less washed out. So in case you couldn't tell with the camera over there, we've moved it over here so you can actually see what I've been looking at and what the cameras have been looking at. We're gonna have Mia come into frame in a moment. She's got the 2 cameras and she's actually gonna help out by taking a couple standard photos, some ultra wide photos, and then we're gonna switch to their portrait modes. Then we'll switch to this side, which doesn't have as much of the light in the background. However, we do have the light bouncing onto me. Mia has noted that the 13 mini, after she realized which one was the 13 mini, was actually picking up on my face. While the 12 mini was also doing that, the 13 mini was doing it far more reliably, whereas the 12 mini, especially against this darker background, was losing me a lot more frequently. So 4K 24 FPS on both of them. We're switching the Sony a7S III to 12,800. That gives you an idea of how dark it is right now. Again, the only light that we really have that allows us to see anything right now is that one light over there. Something that I noticed again, not just with photos, but with videos as well. The 13 mini definitely handled high contrast and difficult lighting scenes a lot better than the 12 mini. So I'm intentionally going to be walking in and out of that lighting here, and you'll be seeing that lens flare probably in a few seconds. Are you picking that up, Mia, at all? The thing that I really also hate about the camera apps that Apple ships out with, you know, the default ones, whatever they're called, there's no manual settings there, so I can't set my ISO to be a constant. It's gonna fluctuate a lot, and that's especially terrible in low light and scenes where your lighting's changing a lot.
There's a lot more detail, fine detail I feel that I can see on the 13.
And that's this one?
Correct.
Okay.
And I can see the grass for further than, correct. Now I'm getting way worse lens flare on the 13.
Okay.
But I feel like I see more of the background. The depth of field that I'm able to see, or the depth I'm able to see, is much greater. Well, how about you walk backwards really quickly? Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I had you walk pretty much until, it's kind of like one of those video games where it says adjust the lighting.
Until you can't see anything?
So I couldn't see you on the 12, but I could still see you on the 13, so I did it until I couldn't see you on the 12 anymore.
Now we've switched to 1080p 30 on both. The reason we're doing that, especially on the 12 mini, is because in the 13 mini, cinematic mode is automatically set to 1080p 30. In the beginning of the video, I was talking about how that's one of the limitations. Maybe in a software update, they can bump that up to 4K or at least give us some other frame rates. But for right now, that's why we're switching to 1080p 30, so it's a bit more apples to apples. How much of that fake depth of field are we able to create in low light? Even though we're dealing with some very low light right now, this will be a pretty good test to see how much it's blurring me out. So now we're going to be doing the selfie test using the cameras in 1080p 30 frames per second, still doing the cinematic mode. So in theory, if Mia turns her face like she's looking at me, the cinematic mode automatically should be jumping to my face. And as I'm looking at the screen there, it's doing it somewhat. Yeah, if you turn completely there, it jumps to my face. And then when you look back, it jumps back to your face. Switch to the other side here. This is a little bit more nice light.
And if I look away?
It goes to my face?
It focuses on you.
and then it goes back to your face. And as I'm looking at it on the screen now, I personally think the 13, at least on me, looks better. She definitely looks brighter on the 13 too. But even on the back here, looking at me, I look brighter. And even though I'm in the back over here,
it's following you so well. And the 12 just doesn't find you at all. 1 second.
To my face, and it knows that she's there, comes back to her face, turn away again, to my face.
Very cool.
Actually, I want to give you an update. So it's 8:23 now. Like I said, we started shooting at 7, so about an hour and a half of battery has been consumed. The 12 mini is at 74% and the 13 mini is at 79%. We took the same amount of videos, took the same amount of photos, same amount of screen on time. So that's giving you an idea for the difference in battery. It's about 5% right now. So perhaps over a longer period of time that could turn into about an hour or so of use, but just looking specifically for their cameras, that's what you can expect right now. Do a couple selfies. Relatively pleasing lighting outside. I'll wrap it up. Like I've been saying, I have a lot of content coming out on the 13 mini. I'll do a couple more comparisons to the 12 mini. In addition to doing a detailed video talking about the cinematic mode on the camera, I'll also be sharing some cinematic shorts shot entirely on the 13 mini without any of that expensive gear that you see in all the iPhone commercials. And beyond just iPhone reviews, I do a lot of camera and tech reviews too. So if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video if it helped you out, and I'll catch you in the next one.